This is the Modern Humans Comprehension Course number 3 by A. B. Glaser, the ultimate self-awareness courses. Modern Humans, Advanced Humans Comprehension number 3 by Alfred B Glaser. Modern Human, Founder's Statement. What you're going to read is statements. Please remember this as you proceed into unreality. The statements are my statements. You may accept or reject them or be selective. You will attain your own perspective. This is your right under choice. You'll find that just knowing by rote the statements I have written will not justify you as a mentor in either Comp number 3 or Comp number 4. Your developing perspective will be the criterion upon which your ability is based. The entrance and prompter check sheets are changed in this regard. You may not qualify as a mentor for Comp number 3, but should you finish it, you'll be a mentee and therefore eligible for Comp number 4. Comp number 4 may cause the pieces to come together as Comp number 2 did for Comp number 1. Should this happen, you will be a mentor for Comp number 3 and Comp number 4 upon completion of your Comp number 4 thesis. Comp number 3 first prepares you by further earth happenings, then plunges you into the hereafter up to the entity dwell. You have traveled a long road on the way home, over 11,000 years long. You're now at the beginning of the end of that road. Your loneliness is almost over. Forward. Thank you for your staying power. You will now need to know comprehensions number 1 and number 2 very well, and will have had to have the work prove itself to you in your own way in order to step into the before birth and after death realms of this your dimension. You must remember that these works are statements, that they constitute base mechanics. As you go into the realm of the unseen, your base components must be in working order. You as a composite personality must be able to relate to the anti-side of yourself while still inhabiting a very live, a very human body. Should you be able to fulfill this oriented approach, you will have for the first time your unreality brought forth into your own reality while yet alive. The seen and the unseen will become solid and clear to you, and you will know. Now the founder will make a secrecy statement that is not a secrecy statement. There are no secrets. For your benefit and your own peace of mind, do not let anyone read this comprehension number 3 text who has not studied comps number 1 and number 2. The fear that will rip into them and turn into rage against you cannot be communicated in mere words. But if you must witness this vicious encounter, please do so knowing that you have made your choice contrary to the statement of the founder. Carry the results upon your own shoulders. None of the comprehension texts are denied anyone who wishes to study them. At no time and under no conditions is any person to be denied the right to know. Where you live. As an advanced human, you will have established a dwelling place wherein you are at repose, either in tingling, exquisite soft alertness, or sleepy, murmuring, burbling, pulsing, purring lassitude. Either dwell brings enjoyment, pleasure, and glowing life to the hair, eyes, and skin, a deep feeling of well-being and satisfaction with all that is about you. You'll not be able to maintain either of these dwells for long without interruption, even though you be alone and secluded with no one around. When you are literally driven out of this pleasure dwell, you'll hasten to return to it, probably without knowing that is what you're striving to do. This brings forth conflict. When the conflict begins, one of these dwells will be impossible to return to while still in that state of conflict. The other dwell will, however, grow and multiply upon itself, racing headlong into confrontation with the disturber. As an advanced human, there are 2 distinct dwells, and you will have both of them, but one will be far more evident than the other, and your life will be much different from the person's in the other dwell. But both expressions of this emotional status is pleasure. Maintaining a pleasure dwell is what we are now going to examine. Pleasure dwell, affection, A-mind. Affection is the base or key emotion to all natural life that lives. It is the broad base of what humans call love. It is an affinity that caresses back and forth between all the individual emotional fields. Much like a soft wind, rising, gusting, and subsiding, all the while throbbing the emotional affection feelings like strings on a beautiful, well-tuned harp. It is glowing, pulsing life at its truest and best expression. When two like affection fields lie one against another, we have a deep, warm, total human relationship with each other. The expression of this relationship brings forth renewal of energy and effort, a bubbling of life that gushes forth without fatigue and despair. The affection expression brings life renewal. It is the true expression behind the words and sayings, born again. Bathing in this deep well of renewal, the emotion washes the tired feelings away, clears the body of drugged, clogged sensations, releases the soreness of the muscles, and the tensions that bring spasms to the brain. These affectionate expressions seem exhausting to other persons watching, but the strength and energy manifested immediately afterwards astounds and confuses the watchers that do not know or witness the total wonder of this type relationship. This dwell is the love the world awaits unknowingly, dreadfully afraid that will actually happen. Persons that witness this dwell can seldom maintain it without grievous hurt to themselves and the one they shared it with. This dwell cannot exist when conflict presents itself. Conflict is caused by comparison. Now you'll know what to compare. The choice will be yours. Pleasure dwell, A-mind. Affection feelings. In an affection pleasure dwell, the all-prevailing emotion is one of rising and lowering waves, of cascading warm vibrations of soft serenity. The eyes, the skin, even the hair is in soft, pulsing glow. Expressions committed to actions in the physical are slow, caressing, no hurry, almost no effort, fondling and or handling of physical contacts. Yet there is a vast sense of reality and glowing satisfaction to each expression. When in a relationship with another in like dwell, the touching, caressing affection wave rises in soft, expanding, rapturous waves and harmonious organ chamber echoes of pure sensory delight, then fades and softly recedes into deep, relaxed serenity, ready and eager to expand again and again, with time being of no concern or awareness. This halt in earth-time flow can be quiet, stretching out into almost seemingly unbearable, exquisite throbs of pure, satiable pleasure pulses, or it can be racing, rising, headlong, cruising at fantastic pace, where breath, heartbeat, and effort multiply into total orchestration. Emotions are likened to music, the chords ever standing and ready. In an affection pleasure dwell, they are chording in response to all that is around them, rising in volume when in close contact with affection pleasure dwell vibes of another close to them, or of many others, all in like response. The common base is one of complete serenity while in physical expression, and from this established base you can go into beauty dwell. Beauty dwell is of pure intelligence, homing in and raising the A-mind pleasure dwell to cascades of pure feelings that ignore act-react law of this dimension. Words are pitifully inadequate, but that is all that is present in contact form at this moment in the sweep of earth time. Think of the animal peacefully at rest in the beautiful, softly wind-sighing glade, with the warm fuzzy wuzzies cascading throughout the body. Bring this soft pleasure dwell to yourself and read on. Beauty dwell. Warm, pulsing, glowing embers, pink, blue, violet, saffron, silver, gold, and interweaving flickers of glorious, rising warmth energies dancing about the glowing vista. Pulsing, speeding, reaching, enfolding, and vibrating with life quickening. Sweeping, broadening, emotions rippling, swelling, reaching the fingertips, the toe ends, the hair tingling and alive on the head. Breathing but not breathing, expanding in glorious waves of pure wonder and awe. The body light and airy, shining. A feeling of totality emanating from within. A sweep of irresistible energy that hums with eternity in yourself. A deep well of total feeling that engulfs all that exists and bathes all life in pulsing rapture. The feelings within the total emotional swell of total results from total actions, All that is with love can be done. Affection swells and swells until there seems no other way to go except burst, but continues swelling ever more rapturous, rushing a current of pure joy to all and enfolding all within that joy, wiping out disease and pain and hurt, wiping out death and destruction, renewing all life that chooses renewal, bursting asunder the chains and guilts that bind and torture and enslave. A total wall of pure, cascading affection that wipes all of creation clean in one glorious bath of pure, total energy, then subsides in soft, delicious serenity, amine, pleasure dwell, ready to expand, reach, sweep, and unfold all in affection, over and over and over again, until all dwell there, sustaining a glow that reaches all the way home, or until the pleasure dwell is interrupted by a twang of the vast emotional chords from without, and the pleasure dwell changes, becomes sharp and hyper-reactive, as the emotional field goes into one of excitement and conflict, of seek and gain, of do and be done. Mind complex. C-mind excitement dwell. Advanced human A-mind. In the excitement dwell of the advanced human lies the stunning technology, creative forces that has brought about all of the things of the human. The automobile, the plane, the spacecraft, plus all the small labor-saving devices of the home. Electricity, gas for cooking and heat, furniture. The weapons of war, nuclear fission, death rays, hypersound, and weapons yet untold to the public. In order to move the human into this creative drive, the mind complex, being of total intelligence and using its memory as a prod, produce an opposing pleasure dwell, one of short duration, of exhausting demands, and with the total motivation of wiping the uncontrollable affection pleasure dwell from the brain of man. The memory system is neat, simple, and highly effective. By the time a human reaches adult status, the human's affection pleasure dwell is no longer recognized as such. The affection pleasure dwell has been insidiously replaced by the excitement pleasure dwell, unknowingly to the person's conscious knowledge. The system merely uses memory like the fingers of the hand, not waiting for compatible feelings to sweep across the strings of the vast harp of human emotions and build in waves of pleasure, but instead reaches it in with the memory fingers and plucks and strums the emotional strings, the same as a guitarist uses the guitar sound to rouse frenzied activity. Once this takes over the person, the cycle of life becomes exhilaration and exhaustion, over and over again, in an ever-quickening drive to seek a satisfaction from the tormented affection emotional field that the emotional field cannot deliver. The affection field goes dormant, no longer swayed by natural pleasures, by waves of pure, cascading, ever-building raptures, because the quick demands of the memory fingers keep it exhausted and drained. The ever-increasing memory demands from the dormant affection field drives the emotions below dormant, and then frustration, emotional pain, despair, and ever-deepening illnesses to the physical body take place rapidly, terminating in physical death long before the actual physical longevity of the body renewal fades into non-alertness. Excitement, pleasure dwell. Advanced human A-mind. As the child grows older, demands come from every person the child is exposed to, thus setting up a quick reaction in the child's brain because of the survival threats to its existence. As the child comes from sleep, it must do certain things in time sequence or it will be punished. What the child must do, therefore, is quickly programmed by the C-mind memory, becoming ever more automated in reaction. When the child does this react well, it is rewarded with something that at first satisfies its affection field. As time goes on, the rewards become fewer, because now the child is expected to repeat the function naturally, and the demands greater. As the child moves through schooling, less and less affection rewards are received and more thing awards are given. Toys, bicycles, dance, drink, smoke, jewelry, fine clothes, and money. Now an ever-widening feeling of importance is developing. The child achieves and achieves. The demands made upon the now vibrating emotional field are repaid by ever more things. Straight-A achievement award-winning students are looked up to because their functions are so well controlled and timed by themselves. Now starts the thrill syndrome. Suddenly, in wild excitement, while playing, the maturing child overcomes the opponent in competition. The opponent is finished, is driven away. The maturing child is suddenly supreme in function, and then the fingers of the guitarist's hand reach in and give a mighty jerk to the emotional field. Lightning flashes, pleasure runs through the victor's body like dancing, jagged bits of pure fire. Eyes glow, the skin tickles, and the hair seems to be dancing in exhilaration. Breathing becomes quick and rapid, then all breath seems to be gone. The knees go weak, a dazed feeling comes rushing throughout the body. Irritation and jagged nerves start twitching muscles, and the child is suddenly tired, wonders what the fuss is all about. Soon the child will sleep. But the memory of that wild thrill remains. It is brought forth again in another circumstance, and then another, each one being a renewed thrill, a renewed burst of dazzling, then exhausting fire. Expectancy now becomes part of the brain function. Seeking the return of the thrill is constant in consciousness until all else is pushed aside. There is not time for slow affection, for riding waves of murmuring rapture. No, now the almost grown child is always expectant, always reaching and demanding that which produces that thrill, that wild, wonderful feeling. And the almost grown child no longer realizes that in order to have that thrill, the thrill must be denied to the other. All persons in the relationship cannot have that thrill. Only the leader and most dominant can have that thrill. The thrill cannot be shared, it can only be taken. The child is now adult. The brain constantly seeks to find excitement. Better at the job, better at getting money, better at using time, better at getting the better of other persons. Think, drive. Get more things, boss more people, use up bodies, get things done, eat, drink, demand satisfaction in the senses. Force them to do what they are told to do. Force the other person to satisfy your demands. Make the other person like it or smash them right now. The weak and the weary are objects of scorn. Their bodies, their brains are worth nothing. They are lazy, shiftless, no good. They don't jump when yelled at. They will not work themselves to death. So take them, make them, drive them until they are broken or used beyond usefulness. There will always be more of the ignorant things. Now the fingers on the hand of the guitarist are playing the emotional heartstrings with vigor and wild delight, making them dance and scream in sudden bursts of twisted, rotting affection, with tormented and confused sensuality, only to suddenly go dead in total exhaustion. Then the excitement duel becomes more intense, the person more nervous and slightly bewildered. Excitement now becomes harder to stimulate. More and more must be done to get lesser and lesser returns from the dying emotional field. The emotional field is now totally sick, and so is the physical person housing the twisted, scared, and non-actioning affection-pleasured field. The cycle turns. The wrecked excitement duel is now the weak, burnt-out Hulk that starts slowly taking the beatings of stronger excitement duels. Is pushed down further and further with any feelings that are left, virtually ripped and torn from the carcass. The physical body drained of effort, the health of the natural animal gone, and no way to never again recognize the natural animal ever existed. All that remain at the burial are a few things, some money, a wristwatch, and Otto. That was one hell of a person, huh? That sure was a mean cuss. Boy, I'd sure like to spend the money they left. If you cannot wait until tomorrow so that you can get that new car, don't smile at what you have just read. See mind well. Advanced human intelligence. Cold, pure, hard, scintillating, dazzling with outer space black, deadly, zero precision, shards of glittering Arctic ice with the high, driving, keening wind of exactness, deep stillness of poised, unswerving power over brain and body. Ever ready, ever alert, with quick, ruthless decision as to master and slave denial, twist and backlash to fooled human seeker, pure need drive in denial, and fulfillment with power unlimited within itself, to reverse denial or fulfillment with ruthless suddenness, using memory drive in a stroke of lightning like shock waves. Still, keening, lurking wakefulness, always driving, twisting, thrusting the brain of man into higher and higher energy uses, building body and bone and tissue into a greater conductor of merciless, grueling energy containment until the human physical element can carry energy capacity sufficient to exercise all intelligence in the physical plane of existence. Totality of intelligence in its own realm is ever poised and ready to whip, torture, and massacre any and all humans on the slightest evidence it can bring itself again into the reality of the physical universe, using the human physical, emotionless body and brain as a total conductor of its scintillating, sparkling power. See mind dwell is ever ready to use memory pain to destroy affection dwell, twisting the remembered emotional pain to fit the present affection dwell situation. Thus, an affectionate act by a present affectionate companion suddenly takes on the remembered horror of a sea-minded person's act that happened years ago. Transference can be so sudden neither affectionate party ever really knows what happened to the relationship. Sea-mind dwell is a mentally happy state of being with the body and emotions quivering in or near an emotional pain state, a life forever under the threat of instant pain or destruction, ever crying out in need of something because of the ruthless denial of sea-mind of all that is emotionally natural. Look at your denial. Understand the denial and your need will go away. The ones denying are the losers, not you. Interactions. Conflict. In the mechanics of comp number 1 and number 2, you have found that comparison brings conflict and pain. To stop conflict and pain, one must stop comparing. In comp number 1, on pages 40 to 42, lines 8 through 19, is a very clear statement that should have made sense to you by now. Again on page 36 and 37, lines 15 through 25, coupled together with pages 40 to 42, should have brought you to the realization that you have an animal pleasure dwell very much within you and your soul. Pick up comp number 1 before you go any further in this text. Reread that part until you start vividly feeling the glowing sensation it produces. This is the pleasure dwell, and even the highest and most ruthless, sea-minded dominator falls constant victim to its striking effect, although later the sea-minded person will lash back viciously at what they call a silly weakness of the moment. Under the pleasure dwell, sea-minds act the same as if they were an emotional human, completely fooling an emotional being. Should you happen to be a functioning sea-mind, should you want to step beyond in the coming pages, you can go no other way except in the pleasure dwell. You may rant and rave all you want. You'll get back no other way while you are in body. This is law that you do not recognize and only now are becoming dimly aware of in this duality dimension of your causation. When you achieve the pleasure dwell, you are free of pain, frustration, hate, and conflict. Doctors, hospitals, and street pusher can furnish you drugs to momentarily achieve this pleasure dwell with diabolic after effects. What a waste. You can achieve this with clarity by allowing yourself to be yourself. The first 2 comprehension texts hopefully have helped you. If not, go back to them, even should you be intensely sea-minded. Now, it must be written that sea-minded persons can be contacted here and are always contacted here. The statement is written, can go no other way, while in body. There is a difference, so please note it. All conflict in all humans starts instantly when their pleasure dwell is interrupted or threatened, unless they have learned by trial and error to control it, not really knowing what it is or was. You now have had it spelled out for you, because the founder does not subject humans to unknowing risks, nor does he assume that all comprehend what is written. C-minded persons have an earthly hell of their own that they are blinded to. They do not know the origin of conflict within themselves, therefore shout there is no conflict, or would be none if you didn't let your damn emotions get in the way of your accomplishments, using emotions they claim not to have to lash their victim with. So, pause here and find your very own pleasure dwell. When you can finish reading Comp3 with a tinkle in your eye, your pleasure dwell will be, without question, almost indestructible for the rest of your lifetime. Power. Read this carefully. Forget every other definition but the one given now. Set this into your minds and your ancient soul. This definition is a key, a lever, and a total working protection shield when you use it knowingly. I repeat, commit this definition of power to memory and instant recall. You'll need it now as never before. Power is nothing at all until it meets resistance. Resistance being nothing at all until it meets power and becomes counterpower. From this meeting that results in action-reaction conflict in the seen or the unseen comes force. Force is what each and every one of you generate in equal proportion to your power, either physically or mentally. Your emotions are immediately in conflict when you do not check, with your own power, the action or the counteraction. Power is nothing until it meets resistance, and then power results in force. Force is destruction. Go over the above very carefully. Please. Stabilize yourself. There is another way, but you must know the way it is now before you can counter without force and survive. When you have comprehended this text totally, you will know how to use total power without force, and the counter to that use will be peace and tranquility, if you so choose. Choice is total law. Choice. Should you not have discovered in your use of Comp number 1 and number 2 the awesome results of granting choice to those near and dear to you, this final defining of choice will bring it conscious to you. Choice is a word known around the world in all languages and in all peoples. The word has a facade that no one seems to be able to penetrate, as it is used with the implanted forethought that is total freedom, i.e. the ability to have total choice will be total freedom. In order to achieve this paradise, countless governments have flourished and died, even as the one you are now in is dying. You will know something far different and far more simple when you finish the mechanics of this comprehension text. But until then, here's the appalling situation that exists under so-called freedom of choice. You grant freedom of choice to one dear to you, and you will have a person that becomes a little afraid of you. After a while, that person will venture to contradict you, will testfully do that which you have shown by your own words, by your words and actions that said certain actions were distasteful to your own lifestyle. When you tolerate this, which you must, they will think you are a liar about your emotions, or they will conclude that you care nothing about what they do. After further testing, should the relationship withstand the assault, they will accept your kooky tolerance and become open in their thoughts and actions with you. In short, they no longer need a facade with you. What they do not know, and which you come to know, is the real person. While this is going on, you will get no consideration. They will set no time aside for you. They will expect to use you in whatever way they see fit, but become hostile if you even admonish them carefully about their total indifference to what was once your relationship basis, all under the guise of saying, "You said that I was foolish not to do as I pleased." Doing as one pleases is not a relationship. One is singular, not plural. Two or more people doing that which pleases them together is a relationship. When they have nothing to do together that pleases them, they have no relationship. That should be simple enough for a moron to understand. It isn't. Highly intelligent people still have no idea of their own emotional ignorance. Choice is total self-responsibility, not the total lack of responsibility. Throwing away all emotional controls and mental controls is not freedom, it is total slavery. Without you controlling your emotions, anybody can and does control them for you. When you want to fulfill only your wishes, this allows anyone to fulfill their wishes with you. This is total selfishness, not total self-control. So take a hard look at the law of choice. It is totally revealing. Dare you totally reveal yourself in this day and age, especially when you actually do not know who or what you are? The law of choice is taking care of that situation right now. Ugliness is blaring forth in shrill defiance under the catch-all phrase, "I'm free, ain't I?" There are also those that chant that Jesus saves. A call came into the police. Dismiss the court and jurors. It's in the hands of Jesus now. 20 minutes later, the man being tried was gut shot in front of the court by hidden people with high-powered rifles. Choice is revealing, remember? Choice, self-importance. Emotions and material things should have a balanced importance. When a person is not important to themselves, they cannot be important to anyone else. The affection zone cannot push itself out to meet others unless there is a recognition and pleasure present upon the other person's part. The same applies to material things. Unless each person in a relationship has comparable values concerning the possession/ownership of conveniences and appliances, the relationship has built-in weaknesses from the start. When a comparable level of emotional enjoyment is had by two or more people, the only variable that will prevail is the matter of importance the emotion is to each. When one person finds that their emotion in that certain category is not of much importance to the other, the person with the deep importance will sooner or later turn away from the shallow importance person, because the shallow important person will show in many ways by allocating no time, showing resentment at times when the emotion is present, because there's something else thought to be more urgent present. To name a few actions, that the sharing of that particular emotion doesn't mean much, not realizing that this action is also showing the deep importance person that they do not mean much at the same time. Sometimes this causes untold oceans of tears and vast spasms of hurt. Persons usually share more than one emotion. One comes to be the most important to one person and is at the same time becoming less important to the other person. The less important person emotionally will unknowingly push for their other emotional or thing of more importance and start resenting the emotion they once held high. The relationship is in almost instant trouble without either knowing why. The instant beginning signs are remarks such as, "You take me for granted," "You don't think much of me," or "You would find time to see me." Who cares about that? "Oh, leave me alone. All you can think of is yourself. I don't understand you anymore." Then, should the most important self-emotion have been sensuality, the highest pleasure sense, the one with the developing lower self-importance will start turning completely off from time to time. If this does not blow the relationship quick enough, they turn completely off, faking interest so as to enjoy the other emotional aspects of the once very self-important relationship. The relationship goes into pain, evidenced by bitter remarks between the persons about what had been pleasure. The sad part is that emotions do not turn themselves off, ever. The person does that to themselves for 101 times, 101 different reasons. The reasons may or may not be valid, but the frozen emotion certainly will be valid, even if it only concerns things such as money or new clothes. When you make any emotion no longer important to you in any relationship, you make the other in that relationship feel almost instantly not important to you at all. When they feel unimportant to you, they will not be around long. All values are lost over one value. This is great enjoyment for the persons that thrive on suicide relationships. A suicide relationship person being a person that comes on strong in related emotions and then starts turning off emotions one after the other as rapidly as possible, with or without reason, until the other person has to turn away in anguish or disgust or both. They usually do not know what they are doing and cry on everyone's shoulder about not having any friends or lovers. You will have no trouble as you move into the future should you decide now that emotions are beautiful to share. They will become more beautiful as time goes on. If only you'll give them your own self-importance and share that same self-importance with the other you're relating to. You must instantly remedy any slight to that self-importance, be it in yourself or in the other person, by bringing the incident into verbal confrontation without delay. Relationships do not start unless there are shared emotions. So the emotions are there. It is up to you each to keep them there, because once frozen, crying in your beer or cocktail glass will not thaw them. Sharing self-importance, be it emotion or things, is an active, extended privilege, each to the other. When the privilege association turns to obligation in either one or the other's thoughts and actions, the old relationship is over. A new relationship may develop between the two, but the chances of the new being as good are 1 to 1,000. And as to being better, well, there has to be another person that can refill the old relationship. No, relationships go on, but no two are ever alike. Your future one should be better when you've learned from the past. Facade. Facade is the side people want to show other people. All people establish this simple bit of honest lying very rapidly, thinking that none are the wiser. In order to create their facade, the person must first create expressions to build a facade with. These expressions then become automatic. After a while, they become the expressions and are no longer themselves. They have taken the expressions from others, either knowingly or unknowingly. When they finally adopt them as their own, the person is living someone else's life, or a whole mixed group of someone else's lives, and they are no longer living their own. Yet their emotional field, which is the basis of all expressions, as an expression is an outward showing of an inner feeling, remains uniquely their own. People beat themselves emotionally to death with their adopted facade and wonder why they are so miserable. They are miserable because they have lived up to 90 years on earth and spent every minute of it living someone else's life. Look at the expressions living, walking, and sharing your life with you, and then look at your own. You should not wonder then why it is so hard to find another to share your own unique pleasure dwell with. Because your own expressions are displaying your feelings, and your expressions are adopted, not your own. Therefore, the feelings are not your own, that you're trying to share with another, whose feelings are also not their own. You are not sharing a pleasure dwell, you are sharing a lying facade. It is tricky to live your life without a facade, especially with loved ones. When you live your life this way, people automatically accept your expressions as a facade. The few persons that finally awaken to the fact that your expressions are honest and not a facade, when they've been openly treating them as a facade to the extent of calling you a pathological liar, blunder around blowing up emotional expressions like the bowl breaking china in the china shop. They need not. Your loved ones need not feel outraged when they awaken to the fact that you know them, the real them. They soon come to realize that their facade had not fooled you for 1 minute. Therefore, you love the real person, not their facade. So take a long, hard look at your own facade while you're in your own very own pleasure dwell, and start living your real self from now on, even if you are a C-minded person. At least then you'll be an honest C-mind, quite a change in the slowly changing dimension. How can the ultimate pleasure of all components become universal and compatible unless they are honestly expressed, not hidden under a facade as they now are all over the world? The ask principle. Persons, even total strangers, reveal themselves unknowingly when they talk. Within the first 10 minutes of meeting and conversing with a person, you can make up your mind as to what kind of person they are, and if a relationship is worth any effort on your part. Sometimes vibe attractions can be very great due to a need situation on both parties' affection levels, and you'll tend to ignore the uneasy feeling of trepidation you have, not knowing from whence this unsatisfactory feeling is originating. It is the person's talk pattern. They will start asking questions, usually on a personal level, but very lightly. When you resist or evade good-naturedly a direct answer, they will start pressing for a direct answer to some minor question they'd asked. When you do not come up with a satisfactory reply, they will then demand an answer, All this is good-natured and in a bantering tone of voice. Unknowingly, you're being dominated. You haven't known the person for 5 minutes. Should you keep the conversation going, you will, out of mounting trepidation, which is unnamed fear, finally start answering yes to their questions. Once you start this, you're now a slave to that person. Eventually you do whatever they ask of you, until your resentment, with no known reason, flares and the relationship is doomed on this self-important inequality. Almost unknowingly, you will have ventured on the same talk pattern, because at first it works. You'll do nothing for anyone unless they come out and ask, thereby giving you a chance to play with your answer and throw all decision and responsibility onto the one you demanded should ask for what they wanted. Should there be a need to ask between two people that casually express their needs to one another? One says, "Gee, I'd like to go swimming," and the other replies, "Gosh, I don't feel like swimming right now." Need that expression go any further? Most people think so, in spite of being told by the person that they don't feel like it right now, and will start insisting that the other person go swimming with them anyway. If your feelings are matching, all they need is the expression of their need between you. If they're not matching most of the time, then self-importance will start acting and you will drift apart without hurt or pain, simply because your importance is fading away, and so will the relationship. Pleasure-dull persons will trade needs openly and enjoy the gesture because of the pleasure it gives the other, knowing that the person will gladly do the same for them at times, also openly and with good humor. That sort of sharing can grow into a beautiful relationship, but usually does not. One or the other starts demanding or feeling that they are becoming obligated rather than privileged. Then a void starts opening up between the two, and voids do not stay empty long. The first and last thing in any good relationship is to ask for a favor or the fulfillment of a self-important need. Should your friend or intimate one, or the first meeting with a stranger, not echo your feeling without being openly asked about it, then any sharing you think you're doing is total nonsense. Better that you openly admit to yourself that you love to dominate. Find a good dominator as your own wants, desire need them to be, and then proceed to get the tar whipped out of you or whip the tar out of them. Either way, you'll both enjoy it until one of you is beat senseless. Should your conquest have been sensuality, instead of beauty of the bedroom, it becomes the open, bruising battle of the bedroom. Words to look for in any conversation. I want you to. You had better. I won't do a thing unless you ask me. A person really has to be demanding of me for me to respect them. If you want something of me, say so. They really jump when I talk to them. Bosses make me angry. That person really fascinates me. Brackets. A snake does exactly that to a bird before it swallows it. End brackets. You don't get unless you ask. These people do not know how to express feelings anymore. They can only express desire and demand. They are slaves of slaves and no longer know it. Expressing your needs to them reveals your weaknesses, which they can instantly attack should your puny self-importance be worth their magnificent effort. Should you be of beauty, go on expressing your needs softly and openly, because the reward and pure pleasure cannot be communicated when you do start finding those people that have the same beauty. Should they change, once you find them, you may lose them, but you'll never lose the memories of what they once were. Beauty dwells hard to hold in this material dimension, and you yourself can lose it quite easily. Seek and you shall find is of beauty mind, which is B mind. Ask and you shall receive is of C mind, because whenever you ask, others have the right to ask of you, and you oftentimes do not have the counterforce to resist. Bigger bastards always meet yet bigger bastards. That is the way of the slave. Should you ever be literally forced to ask of a once beauty-minded friend or intimate for the fulfillment of one of your known needs, then from that second on, the relationship is no longer sharing, but domineering. Should you wish to keep it, start dominating that person instantly. They will love it for a while. At least then you can commit both sides of them to memory in the near future, unless you understand these comps. Emotional substitutes, physical capabilities, stamina. One of the most baffling situations in human relationships is how a once wonderful intimacy can fall apart so easily. This does not have anything to do with the sexes, but the most hurt when a relationship goes sour are the ones sensually involved. Since you have pursued this text this long, you should be able to grasp the appalling situation easily while in a pleasure dwell. Your pleasure dwell will go sour for a while, so think carefully and let it come flooding back peacefully after you have finished reading this. All emotions must express themselves physically, or they're really nothing. When you run into another person that has vibes with you, be it man or woman, you come alive with that person. You stay more alive when you're not with that person, so your attraction vibes remain very strong to all about you. You are happy, and happiness draws people, especially people that are unhappy. You are a sitting duck for these happiness stealers and do not know it. You are happy. You want everyone to be happy, right? Being happy is excellent, but trying to make another person happy? Happiness happens. It is not made. It has happened between you and another person. Now what happens? To keep this strictly unbiased as to sex, let us have two men meet and suddenly find they are both avid fishermen. They go on for hours, much to everyone's dismay, talking about fishing with glowing faces and shivering funny stories. In a rush, they plan on getting together soon to take a fishing trip. Jack, one of the two, is so alive he starts making arrangements with his boss, his wife, the neighbor guy that helps him garden. Then he calls Jim, the fisherman he met a week ago. Can Jim go at this time, please? Can he make the arrangements? Jim excitedly agrees. No trouble at all. He answers jubilantly. Okay, they both agree. All set. Jack shows up at 5 a.m. that morning as agreed upon, all bright and shiny. Jim drags himself to some coffee, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Yeah, he's going, but boy, you should see his refrigerator. Jim proudly goes to it, throws it open. Jack looks uneasily at the two fish with frosting on them hanging there. Jim gulps his coffee and groaningly says, let's go. On the way, Jim drowses fitfully, grunting answers to Jack's description of the wonderful fishing hole he's taking Jim to. Jim hardly fishes. After a while, he says the man next door, while he was talking about the great fishing trip he's going, suddenly wanted to go fishing with him. Never really mentioned that he was interested in fishing before. Nothing he could do, you know. The guy was a nice fellow, you know. Couldn't let him down. Not when he became so nice all at once. So yesterday morning, Jim went fishing with his newfound friend. The guy couldn't row worth a damn, kept guzzling canned beer, and got mad because it turned warm. The beer, that is. Well, he just didn't have the good time he thought he was going to have. By the way, Jack, what about me piling up on the bank for a while and catching some shut-eye? Beat, you know? The wonderful relationship never got off the ground. The substitute vibe stealer took quick care of that. Fortunately, the split happened quickly between the fishermen. But what happens when the happiness pair have been happy for a while and a vibe stealer moves in? One party doesn't know the source of their happiness, or maybe both do not, and then the fire that is built between them is suddenly being used to heat up unhappy, vibe-stealing strangers, and each of the once happy couple start bringing each other the ashes of their fire, having spent the fire on some cold fish they wouldn't know if they saw them again. They never blame themselves. They never blame the vibe-stealing substitute. They have now forgotten where the happy vibe came from in the first place. No, they blame each other for messing around in the ashes that they're causing. Both parties can mean well, as the fisherman did. I can handle the whole thing. Each happiness person excuses themselves, hopefully, as they let the vibe stealer play with their fire. Gosh, I got enough for everybody. Isn't it fun to be happy? But the body tires, it drains, fatigue sets in. The emotion is still there driving. It is strong, but the physical strength to give it expression is gone. They are tired because they had to see you. They made the date. They didn't know they were going to be so tired. Why don't you let me go home now? I don't feel too good. They run back to the vibe stealers when they no longer have the happiness vibe with you. The strangers don't want them. Fact is, strangers can't seem to do anything for them anymore. People marry vibe stealers, mistaking them for the source of their happiness, having out of resentment broken up with a happiness vibe partner that finally didn't want anything to do with them anymore. How can one get warmth from the ashes of their fire? So the next time you're happy in another person's company, make sure your happiness is shared with that person, that your fire only envelops you too in warmth. Don't let some empty and fireless vibe steal as much as get a fingertip warm at your beautiful emotion, or it will not be beautiful long, nor will it be vibrant long. Happiness with another is, you cannot give it to anyone else. Should you try, you will destroy it. The vibe stealers are canny. They are scheming. They have no fire. having destroyed it for themselves by doing just what they are going to get you to do: warm their cold heart at your hot, happy one. Oh. Happiness couples soon forget where their happiness came from. Their inane reasons are 1,000-fold. Not one of the thousands of reasons ever warmed their heart again. There is a type of vibe stealer to be terribly awake with. It is the one who, knowing that you are going to see some person that flares your happiness vibe, will do everything they can to tire you, drain you, weaken you just before you get to see that person. This one should be obvious to a child, but never is, because they themselves do not know what they are doing. They just suddenly turn on. Of course they do. Your happiness vibe is rising in expectation. They are drawn to you like a magnet. When they let you finally go, it is because you are exhausted and have nothing more for them at the moment. You also have nothing at all but ashes for your happiness vibe partner. Goodbye, vibe partner, unless you can check this headlong rush into emotional destruction. It is easy to do. It doesn't take too much effort. All you need do is come to your vibe partner with fire again in your heart, not ashes. All you need to do is say no to the vibe stealers, because you should be able to spot them a mile away. Curse of the Ages. Your pleasure dwell should be bouncing well by now. What is written is not written to condemn or scold or cause guilt to rise in an engulfing wave. When a person does the best they know how, with the intelligence and knowledge they possess at the time of action, there is no blame on them. It will be advisable to keep this constantly in mind while reading the next few chapters, because the key to conflict is being exposed. And you will recoil in misunderstanding and rejection of the principle now set forth, and conflict will rise within you drastically. There is in common usage around the world a deeply ingrained thought. All forms of higher learning hammer endlessly to push this thought ever deeper and deeper into consciousness. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and religionists groups write book upon book, text upon text concerning it, accepting the fact that it exists, and then get lost in their own works, informing the world that is all that is known at the moment, that it will come clear in time. To work upon the information furnished, from 1950 until 1978, these same leaders insisted you could form your own feelings. In 1978, they suddenly did an about face and hastily correct themselves. Feelings form themselves, but you should be able to control them. They're not sure how to do it, but they hope to come up with an answer. These are people that charge $50 to $1,000 an hour for their advice, and whom you are urged to see to get your head screwed on right. Certainly all people at times, now read this fairly carefully, need to talk their problems over with someone else. All people need to relate, need to fulfill their desires, need to get money, need to get things, need to get other people, need to get more food, need to get more land, need to get more soldiers to take more land, need to slaughter others to get freedom, need to take what they can get to satisfy themselves, need to help others, need to give of themselves to others, need to get to heaven, need someone to go to hell, need preachers, law, governments to fulfill their needs. You are born to the needs of the world. You are told so, day in and day out, right after you get the slap on the bottom, before the umbilical cord is cut, because you need to start living. Shouldn't you have studied Comp number 1 and Comp number 2, hopefully, and have been puzzled by most of it? You should now take a look at your memory of the comps. The word need is hardly used at all. That was an almost impossible task, to write those two texts, carefully avoiding the word need, while explaining in depth that you need nothing at all. Need is only brought about by denial of what is already here. Please be patient, should you wish another way to go, because this is going to take some time upon your part to comprehend. This is an act-react situation or dimension. Your feelings are real, and so are you. They act-react without any causation on your part, and can only express them or not express them. There is no need to start them or stop them, only control them because of the time, place, and person/people you find yourself with. There is no need of food, clothing, housing, governments, armies, unless you need to control the produce of this world and deny the produce to others so you have more of it and others have less. This way you can control them. You need to control them. They will control you if you don't control them. Yes, that is your role today. Eliminate the falsely created need and you eliminate the world you have today. The world of conflict, of wanton starvation, of savage wars and created desires, of crushed babies and ravaged mothers, of slaughtered husbands, wives, and lovers. Should you still accept the word need as needed, then accept the need of getting rid of need. Stop creating desires and then finding a need to fulfill them, and you have stopped the destruction of your world at your own unknowing hand. Reread Comp3, page 21, line 13, and you'll find the first need from which all others came forth. You'll also find that whenever you insist on satisfying a need of others, they can insist on satisfying a need of yours, even though you may have no need. Try to tell someone that when they are insistent on your needs in order to fill their own needs. No, the situation is not hopeless, or these texts would not have been written. The mounting force you feel comes from power that cannot be set aside. Choice. Why you act as you do and what to do about it. Thought in the physical dimension may or may not be acted upon, while basic mind actions, reactions, always bring a physical response. You may not be conscious of the mind react most of the time, such as your heartbeat, your nervous system, the butterfly in the belly feeling, and the resulting migraine headache that no one seems to find a reason or remedy for. Regardless of what you may feel emotionally, and regardless of how many thoughts you may have concerning react of the mind, so long as you're alive, you're acting and reacting constantly in this dimensional experience. Thought or thinking is another matter. Most people do this all their waking time without really knowing it. They get depressed because they think they cannot think, as stupid as that sentence may read. Thought is an influencing device used to prod a mind in various endeavors, such as when to wake up, when to eat, when to be emotional, and when to be unemotional, when to work, when to play. You'll make no less than 1,000 decisions and act or not act upon them by the time you have been free of slumber for as little as 6 hours any day, week, or month of the year. Since it is obvious all thoughts cannot be acted upon due to time, place, and or situation, what device do you use to decide? A whole system of man-made laws have been built around this simple factor, yet no one seems to think it applies to them. You only act in the physical to carry out your thought when you can justify the act to yourself or someone else. Should you justify the act for the benefit of someone else, you're in trouble up to your armpits. Worse, you'll never know why you became blinded by anger, ripped by hurt, vicious with resentment, and oftentimes red-eyed and puppy-faced from tears. Justice is a simple law term that comes from this constantly working thousands of decisions a day device in your alert psyche. Justice of the peace, up to the Supreme Court justice, and in other lands, other names, all reflecting this ticking life experience device in your minds. You would not have read this far into this work had you not justified to yourself or someone else your reason for doing so. Pause here and think, please. Think about how you constantly justify all the decisions you make and come awake to the fact that you are actually doing this justification based on what? Think about some of your decisions and think about some of the merciless prods you have given your mind, driving the emotional, fun-loving new being into frenzies and hurt. For what? What was your justification? Worse, did you justify an act with one person, not justify the same act with another person dear to you? Perhaps on the pretext that you love the dear one too much to expose yourself to them in such a manner. Is love a producer of fear in your mind? In short, have you realized that you have, up until now, or until a short time ago, no base whatever to work from in your decision making? Did you base your justification on work, money, time, anger, or fear? Please, ask yourself what you've been doing to those around you, and what you've been doing unknowingly to yourself all of your life. Because should you have been basing your justifications on anything else but pleasure, Your justifications will come swarming home to you like karma beasts starved for a stolen honeypot, stingers curved and reaching in front of their angry eyes. The simple, or laughed at and ridiculed, reply is soon knocked out of the new growing child. That simple reply is mashed and ground into bitter disappointment by the time of puberty. By adulthood, to use it is akin to being weird. The reply is not earth-shaking. It is not one of the longer words in a treatise on psychiatric, psycho-motivational, inverted phenomenon, intercolor associations. No. It is merely an expression of true feeling from an alert emotional field. I did it because I liked to do it. Some people use the term, I wanted to do it. There is a kinship, but wanting implies demand, and this is a term to be avoided in sharing of emotions. That pleasant, warm, bubbly feeling that rushes through a body when you do something you like to do is very often missing when you finally get what you want. Now, justify what you have read. Actions of conflict. What you have read up to now may puzzle you, but as you step free of this reality, you need to know something of power as it now exists, and need to know the basic concept of the law of choice. You are going to the place from whence the two concepts came in this your universe. Power versus choice equals conflict on earth in the physical. When you enter the anti-physical, you will be with the power and choice, not under its influence as here in the physical. But since you are physical and are taking this venture while yet in a physical body, your body, being nothing more than an emotional field, will react accordingly unless you have found control over it. You will need to accomplish two ventures at one time: live physically and reach mentally. Needless to repeat, but repeat is a must. Unless you can maintain a pleasure dwell while venturing forth, don't venture forth. Step into the beyond, which you've been impatiently waiting to do. You do have friends there, so try to keep your fear out of it. We will all appreciate it if you do. There is no conflict in the netherworld. None can enter there. Reread Comp3 as to how conflict happened in the material world. You may read of the netherworld with conflict, but you cannot go into it with conflict. All priests, ministers, spiritualists, yogis, masters, psychiatrists, psychologists, and present-day cults have designed a way to achieve this non-conflict dwell by various methods of systems: chants, rituals, song, sacrifice, and dance. All have recognized in various ways that tranquility must be had before communicating with a higher power. Peace and pleasurable ripples must be present in order to ascend into the field of ecstasy. Before you attempt to go into this emotional dwell and reach into the beyond, you should know eternity's time clock, what brings death of the physical and how, plus human comparables. Eternity's time clock. Number 1, astrology. You are in an act-react universe. All that is natural is thereby in a continuity flow in your universe. In order to have a total repeatable cycle, the cycle must have its actuating principles that apply to all that is present in the universe or natural flow. All material bodies of the universe are dense centers of energy. Energy is all vibrations. All vibrations interact with all other vibrations in a set pattern of reactions down to the tiniest unseen and unfelt wavelength. Some of the seen parts of dense energies in your universe are called stars and suns. These stars and suns with their vibrations are part of the energy directives that cause life not to be, but to function in pattern. All that is natural react to the stars and suns' act vibrations. Thus we have a complete governed functional dwell of all unthinking animate and inanimate life enjoying a completeness under a complete guidance sequence of direct energy emanations. These emanations are different by night and day and thereby cause life to have active and passive periods necessary to their individual environmental status. Thus, astrology today and in the ancient past does apply to all unthinking life in this universe. So you, being part of the natural life in your A-mind dwell, are affected as you were in the past as a perfect animal creature. This clock still directs your functions in the emotional field and life environmental pattern. But since the advent of your minds, you now have choice in accepting or denying the once natural functions of your emotional lifespan. You set aside eternity's time clock by your power of choice, but in so doing, you bring forth, also of choice, unnatural expressions of your emotional field in order to reach a higher perfection of being beyond and above this your own dimensional natural functions. Used in this comprehension expression, astrology does play a part in your future because it is a complete repeat of your past. But astrology is but a part of the energies that influence you. Number 2, biorhythm. Your universe is not only one of energy emanations, but also of motion. Motion is a result of act-react functions. Motion, as with energy emanations, is also in continuity flow under cyclic dwell. Certain motions waken you, certain motions put you to sleep, certain motions make you suggestive, and certain motions make you passive. Certain motions upset you, certain motions warn you. That should be enough to point out to you the part motion plays in your life. Motion is part and parcel of vibrations. The intertwining brings out acts in the physical referred to as expressions. Expressions being physical acts brought forth by animal energy, converted by your emotional field to effort. Without the mind choices you now have, this is the mechanics of a perfect universe and all that dwells in your universe, except you. Number 3, death. Your emotional field, coating itself with material to give itself expression in the material at birth, goes through material experiences that either fulfills the emotional expectations of that one life or denies them for that one life. Under natural universe mechanics, emotions are always totally fulfilled. Therefore, all that is yet natural in this universe dies when the emotional pleasures have been lived and return to the unseen dwell to become one in dwell, under the mechanics of act-react continuity flow. Since the advent of minds, a human now has a choice between being all A mind, all B mind, or all C mind, or any combination of them. Thus, the emotional field is no longer natural in expression, and therefore the body encasing the emotional field, being the physical expression of your emotions, is no longer natural. However, as with the perfection creatures, you will live out your emotional expressions that you have started in life, unless excitement expressions alter and twist true emotional expressions, thereby killing them before their expression in natural flow can be experienced. A death is the cessation of your emotions. As your emotions are either killed, you no longer express these emotions in the physical because of pain, hurt, or anger. Therefore, they are killed in the physical. Or you fulfill them by continual use of them till they become surfeited, and then the physical expression, which is your body, simply fades away into death. Either a pleasant, sleepy cessation of bodily functions, or a pain-ridden, sometimes screaming, ripping apart of the emotional expression called the body. Often driven under the total excitement dwell, the emotions encased in cold blackness and non-functioning, the body is killed in lashing physical conflict. The Earth time period of life under excitement dwell can be 1 second or 100 years. Earth time period under affection dwell in physical expression is timeless even under physical decay breakdown. Affection has no age expression. You will live as long as your emotional field lasts in the physical is able to express itself, unless things keep the body functions alive. When the emotional field goes dead, once the emotional field departs, the body cannot hold the blood fluid, much to the dismay of the attending personnel. Sometimes the dead person suddenly comes alive because the emotional field has not departed. Humans just thought it did. Incomparables. When assessing another person in any relationship, it should be apparent one ought to know oneself. Should you not know yourself, your chance of assessing another person is about 1 in 100 as to correctness. Should you try comparing one person to another person and tell yourself you're leaving yourself out of it, your chance of being correct on either person is about 1 in 10 million. To give you some sort of standard, a chart is presented following this comprehension statement. Do not take this chart as being total in revelations as to yourself or others. When worked out thoughtfully, the chart, as simple as it may appear, tends to bend one's ego considerably. It is better to use a pencil and fill it very lightly, so you can erase before anyone can see it, especially if you've compared yourself to one dear to you. After you have mastered your own shock, then you can have the other person do it secretly in pencil and erase before you can see the results. After both of you have overcome your shock, you may fill it out together. Your relationship could be better afterwards, or you may find you had no relationship at all. Should you enjoy the pleasure greatly, that would be a 10. Should it be meaningless, that would be a 0. All pleasures listed are pleasures. You may not think so at first, but after a little thought, you should realize something you have not realized before. What you get pleasure from sometimes is deeply hidden even from yourself. You'll get confused as you go down the chart, as the 1 to 10 rating tries to reverse itself in your mind. Knowing about self-importance will help you considerably. Ten Commandments. The Old Testament Bible states that Moses, upon seeing the scene of revelry as he came off the mountain, smashed the tablets of stone. After the settlement of the scene, Moses went back into the mountains and rewrote on stone the 10 Commandments. The word everyone skips right over is the rewrote, and how semantics have changed over thousands of years. Christ said that the 10 Commandments no longer applied, that a new era had dawned. Saul, a rabbi of Judean law, making his living hunting down and murdering the Christians at their invisible churches, on a raiding party fell off a horse on his head. Saul then became Paul, and using Moses' law as a base, wrote the format that became the Christian church foundation, thereby bringing Christ's invisible church into very visible being. It is natural that Paul would include the 10 Commandments of Moses as structural functions to hold the church in dominion. What was not known by anyone living at the time of Moses was that the words written on stone by lightning were not of dominion but of affection. Moses destroyed these, knowing they would not be understood. Moses then wrote a standard that held the tribes together under fear and presented them as the rule of law. Under this rule of law, Moses held the tribes together in the desert, deftly and adroitly instilling in them the true law of affection, creating a bond that holds to this day among their kind. The affections are now presented in duality. Be aware, be not in haste, and be not judgmental of yourself or others. The way you have acted until now may be in cause of ignorance. The being of all beings speaks. In the beginning, through the next beginning, to the next beginning, and now from the final beginning to be perceived by the entirety of the human race. Creation spoke, and Moses, the channel, came down from the mountain with the message. But no, mankind was not yet capable of handling truth in the form given. The expression was far too alien for their degree of development and intelligence. Once again to the mountain, and a message of modification for further preparation, couched in terms people of that time would be able to function within. We know this message of modification of the original message as the 10 Commandments. That which was originally presented to Moses would never be termed commandments. They were instead the plan by which mankind would regain a new perfection, living as they were created to live, in harmony with themselves, one another, and the world around them. Once again, the message comes, the original message of perfection. Two of the prime conceptual expressions are the mother and the father, or male and female. Hence, for a more clear understanding, each expression of direction of these two conceptions will be demonstrated. Each person will come to know, and in and from that knowing choose. Words of perfection in the expression of the Father. Number 1. You shall abide in a total feeling of serenity and pleasure. Place nothing before or after this my affection, which is now your affection. Number 2. You shall stand fast in affection before all confrontations of it, both of your own affection and those of like affection. Number 3, you shall stand as one among the all that is of my affection, which is the all of the beasts, the birds, and all life unseen and unheard of as yet. Number 4, you shall offer affection all that lives and breathes not, and withdraw none of it, else you withdraw me and mine. Number 5, you shall accept all affection offered and return in fair measure, else you deny me of my fair measure share. Number 6, you shall pour affection on those of the past and those of the womb and those of the future, thus anointing them of me. Number 7, you shall call forth the all of me when you call forth in my affection. And while in this affection dwell, no power that exists can overcome you. Number 8, you shall use affection only as a serenity, a pleasure, and the eternity, else you take it instead as a wild wind of horror and dread. Number 9, you shall accept all of me that lives, that becomes my life, thus affection answers its own call in mine. 10, you that live in affection of affection can never die in me and mine. In the expression of the mother, thou shalt totally abide in feelings of pleasure and serenity, placing nothing before and or after this, the affection of my being, which is in your being. 2, thou shalt stand fast in life, before all confrontations to it, knowing that affection in expression is life. 3, thou shalt stand as one among the all that is in affection, which includes the beast, the bird, and all of your life, both within and without your perception. 4, thou shalt offer kindliness to all that live and breathe not, and withdraw none of it, else you withdraw from that which I in fullness am. 5, thou shalt accept all affection pro-offered thee, and return in true measure, else in denying you find your being denied. 6, thou shalt bathe in love, life, in all time and space, thus anointing with that which I am. 7, thou shalt be calling forth all that I am when thou callest forth in my affection. And while dwelling and being in this affection, no thing in existence or in non-existence can overcome thee. 8, thou shalt express affection in peace and pleasure eternally, else what thou shalt reap in its stead is fraught with horror beyond recognition. Number 9, thou shalt accept all that I am in life, each segment and expression of part of my being, hence of your own. Thus affection responds to its own call in that of mine. 10, thou who livest and dwellest in affection and of affection shall never cease to live within that which I am in the fullness of your being. We shall now enter the netherworld, a vacation without luggage. Netherworld, Serenity Energy Field. The pale yellow oblong of twisting and turning energy slows, becomes a solid, seemingly total shape. Pulsing lines of paler yellow, flowing ribbons emanate, reach out towards the other emotional fields of the same shape and color, engage in twisting and playful affectionate intertwining, while the surrounding area becomes clear, many-hued and solid, with undulating vistas and throbbing vibrations, seemingly familiar but yet so totally real, so totally perfect. Each energy blade, every energy leaf, each droplet of seeming water, all real, all flawless, all pleasing to the eye, ear, and senses of the newly returning soul. The dwellers surrounding the newly returned soul are serene, moving in time but timeless, eons of years old, yet old where no longer time exists, while greetings and acceptance energies entwine and flow from one to another. Sound as sound does not exist, yet a muted, flowing silver thread of pure vibrations tingles every sense of the returning emotional field, enveloping the soul in a flawless emotional dwell. Many hued shades and sizes of saffron energies flit and flip by, each sending a wave of pure pleasure and welcome in total exuberance all about their perimeter of shape and size. Then slowly the scene becomes clear, becomes finite, and then it is all clear that it was in the material dimension. There are trees and grass and animals. There is all the material world in shape and size, only in energy perfection, as it once was on the material side. Only the emotional field of the returned soul is now at ease, resting and quiet as old friends and enemies are met and pleasured in a flow of easily weighted time that is not time, nor is it waiting. The needs of the soul remain the same, but the satisfaction of those needs are energy, inflow and without bodily function, merely energy replenishment without any waste whatever. The total beauty of the sun, the moon, and the stars glow softly. The skies are pure and unblemished. All energy and all in perfect alignment continuity. Pleasure is the rhapsody of ever-changing but never-changing dwell. As you go about the sylvan glades, the beautiful habitats of soft stone and pliant, luxurious earth, grass and water, you are with a multitude that you know and they know you. All are in accord and all are waiting, without time, without impatience, because they are not yet complete. Half of their emotional field is not yet there in these soul returnees. None can progress until their other half arrives, and the plurality then exerts a move towards that total soul's place of dwell. Yet the total pulsing beauty is complete. The total sense of total sensual relaxation is complete, and about all is a magnificent celestial humming quietness that sets every emotion to a pleasing continual exaltation. This is the one place of total, complete, uncontested relationship. A saffron shape now appears, becoming solid, slowly. Ribbons of affection and pleasure reaching, entwining, and then another saffron shape vibrates, pulses, and their affection ribbons interlock, and they move together and become one. The soul is one now. Ecstasy pulses through the complete emotional field. The saffron glow changes in energy tone, becomes either pale blue, toning deeper and deeper into violet, or it glows into orange red and tones into deeper and deeper flaming scarlet. The experienced products of the last earth or material expression life are now manifesting their newer learning dwell, which is etched forever into the emotional and intelligence channels of the soul, even though the new experience has produced only a small reprogramming of act and react towards new perfection. The balance and choice as to new perfection in beauty or new perfection in things now emerges. In the timelessness of the blending together of the two soul halves, the complete soul sweeps the serenity dwell, only now with blue ecstasy glowing brightly, or orange-red excitement cascading in rays of pure splendor. Then the glow fades and is gone from the serenity dwell. The ancient soul is emerging into another dwell, or one of its choice. Your vacation has started. Should your other soul half have been waiting, your time in the serenity dwell would be shorter but the same. That is why many teachings and writings define this place from the earth expression as friends helping you through, or looking over the astral records, or a person saying to another, your, brackets, father, mother, lover, husband, etc., end brackets, send you greetings from the other side, but they are not completely awake yet. They want you to know they are happy and very, very surprised. From this also comes the use of the word purgatory. This earthly expression has a very dominating tag attached to it, as does the words lost souls. No soul is ever lost, maybe waiting around a bit for its completeness, happy and very, very pleasurable till the other half arrives. Then the pleasure changes, sometimes to exhilarating excitement. The soul is now complete. All of its senses act and react within itself, having total climaxes in each and every one of its thousand-fold emotional parts in a continual undulating energy curve. The pale blue energy shape dims, becomes gone from the sylvan glades. The silvery vibrating hum, it will now merge in beauty intelligence. Beauty intelligence. The soul emerges into perfect form and substance in a vast world of splendid colors, of earth and sky, of tree and forest, of streams, rivers, mountains. Landscapes that dwindle into muted, hushed sylvan glades and towering, crested, melodious mountaintops. All about, in play and frolic, in exchange and cross-exchange, are total soul beings. Earth, male and female, are now one pulsing entity in one glowing, energy-hued body. The hue of energy emanating from the complete soul being varies according to the affection and excitement experiences of earth dwell. When the affection experience and span of earth dwell on earth plane was far more in time duration than the excitement dwell, the predominant blue energy is more crystalline, more tangible, more diamond and sparkle in substance, with the scarlet intertwining of the excitement dwell energies, soft and throbbing, cascading in soft support of the muted emotional wonders. Now the wonders of wonders happen, and all the affectionate beings of natural dwell, visit and revisit, with the intelligence gain of all slightly more advanced, slightly less advanced, but all meeting again without conflict, without comparables, with a beauty intelligence which is uniquely each their own. From within the vast world of beauty intelligence approaches another being. In a flowing, timeless, idyllic gesture, beauty mind intelligence other half meets other half, and the vast world of timeless beauty becomes laughter, song, and gladness, a union of beings that sets all emotions into continual flowing exchange of experiences and happenings, a continual flow to ever more growth into perfection and finite. The beauty-dwelling total soul in total beauty dwell intelligence now enjoys perfection, to and within their own imperfection plane, knowing no more than that which they are. In timeless time, in flowing continuity and experience, in the beauty plane that experience and affection, in affectionate earth exchange has nurtured and expanded, the beauty dweller becomes surfeit within the dwell. The soul being fades from the beauty intelligence dwell, the beauty intelligence other half flowing apart, and then both emerge again as total, distinct beings, their energies mute and waiting, emotional questing vibrations, reaching hesitantly into the material earth plane, seeking contact again of the human, seeking hopefully to emerge in birth among human of their own dwell, and not knowing whether it will happen. At this dwell level, humans in the material, in knowledge, and devoid of conflict can talk with them. The returnees have one consolation. All the natural life on the earth plane, animals, birds, flora, and fauna, there are the same as they are in the beauty dwell, affectionate, pleasurable, and happy. They know they will no longer know this as they emerge into the earth material dwell, unless enough proof has been left there for them to accept the affectionate condition and will be all about them after birth. The soul in serenity dwell, coexisting with all the natural life of the dimension, dwelling in totalness for all time. The veil of energy separating from now knowledge of either the beauty dwell or excitement dwell flows without conflict among the totality. Only the veil of not knowing separating the dwell, because of as of yet only half the emotional field is there. The other half comes into the serenity dwell, glowing orange and red, intertwines, and the halves become one of flashing, cascading, driving energy. The total soul being fades and is gone from the serenity dwell. The soul being emerges into a vast, rippling, chain lightning world, energies red and orange and deep purples, fixed and moving throughout the vast world of dark hues and ever-changing, methodical patterns, while zinging, zipping, strident shards of vibrant vibrations take forms and shapes and sizes, from pinwheels and waterfalls of quicksilver density, then fade, transform and become purple mountains and blood-red rivers. Overall in the vast world is vividness and high expectancy. Beings move about in direct, quick motions. A total excitement intelligence being flows to the soul being, intertwines and becomes one with it, and all vibrations become clear in knowing, within the soul being's experience level. Excitement dwell intelligence, other half, has now merged, and the soul being is now vibrating in a level that is exhilarating and breathtaking. The soul being's vast world takes another dramatic size and shape. Marble columns, vast buildings, complex interlacings, symbolic abstracts, interstices of mathematical diagram complexities, all in vivid, sharp, contrasting energy hues. Soul beings are moving rapidly about, searching and seeking among vast machines, huge matrices of sizzling energy. Others are bent over complex desks, studying, writing in symbolic form, hurrying hither and yon. All goes on under a watchful, directing energy from form, resplendent with scintillating, shard-like but cold vibration emanations, flashing about. The arriving soul being flows before a vast center. Vibration in the form of a flowing matrix of energy envelops the soul being. Instantly all the vivid excitements of all earth dwells, ripple and twang throughout the soul being continuously. Knowledge level priority is known, and the soul being flows to energy couplings in the cold stillness of a vast hall. Rush, move, the energy form directing touches with shards of high excitement when the energy coupling mates with blankness of all vibrations, when the energy coupling mismates. Each and every energy supplements all. Each and every soul being undulates and supplements their excitements upwards to those above, energizing the excitement of the directors. The directors supplement the excitement dwell higher to their directors until the excitement dwell produces the total excitement to the one being above all beings in the domain. The hierarchy of the excitement dwell stays constant and in priority pattern, with each soul being sustaining earth excitement experience, crystallizing the experience into a total knowledge on the level experience. While the excitements of earth experiences ebb and flow under the director's approval or disapproval, showers of excitement vibrations are continuously sent upwards, each priority level expanding in energy manifestation as the vibrations are passed still higher. The soul being in the excitement dwell is being accustomed to carry more and more energy within the matrix of the non-conflicting emotional field, so that in time the earth material physical being can flip back and forth between the seen and the unseen, partaking at will the best of both in total excitement. The excitement dwell becomes surfeited. Excitement fades and the soul being separates from the excitement intelligence, and both fade away and emerge into the quiet, non-conflicting waiting dwell, returning again to the earth material plane. While waiting, the soul being of the excitement dwell sends questing vibrations into the material earth plane, demanding contact again of the human, forcibly trying to merge in birth among humans of the excitement dwell, trying to make it happen. At this level, humans in the material in excitement knowledge and devoid of conflict can communicate with them. The soul being of the excitement dwell knows that abridgment exists, and they must be able by the proof left on the material plane to again pick up their dwell as material physical human beings. Any method or trick that they can use at this point before entry to help that cause will be forcibly
Soul
used. Entities. Earth, dimension, netherworld. The soul being, having witnessed all the earth material experiences in both the excitement dwell and the beauty dwell until the time and dimension of now, have a trinity of development approaching new perfection. Soul entities in the netherworld have passed through all veils of the beauty intelligence and the excitement intelligence dwell into a new comparable equation without conflict remaining. Soul entities come and go much as they please, depending on how much earth denial creates how much earth need. When this condition on earth material plane starts developing in a highly unbalanced manner, they flip in rapidly, but must still go through the earth birth cycle and human abridgment law. However, at their energy level while human, they are very capable at recall and seldom possess a subconscious mind. They stay or again quickly become conscious through earth birth or shortly thereafter. Soul entities will be fully revealed in comprehension number 4, which gives statements of detail of the entire entity consciousness within and without flow line consciousness.